So the world's newest supervillain, Turkish President Recep Erdogan, also known as Muslim Brotherhood man, has taken over the Hagia Sophia and declared it a mosque again. Now, I have two motives for making this video, be clear. One, solidarity with the Orthodox Christian community. You can't be taking people's stuff, declaring it yours, and acting like a jerk. All right. Two, I'm going to be called out in about 5 years from now when I'm talking about curbing Turkish aggression somewhere as they're supporting some quasi-ISIS-like faction that's going to end up getting a lot of people killed down the road. And people are going to say, Warmonger, you're only caring about Turkey now because you've been brainwashed by Fox News propaganda or whatever. And I'm going to be like, no, actually for 5 longer now, because it's like maybe 9 years now. I've been talking about why Erdogan is a problem. Now, let's go into who he is. Turkey's founded by Ataturk, right? Turkey, Ataturk. He did a few things. Okay, one of his founding things, if we're going on the Hagia Sophia, is actually declared to be a museum, right? It was a sticking point, clear spit in the face to the Christian community, how you take a church, declare, this is a mosque now, right? Especially when it's a pretty prominent one, adds ethnic tension. Now, another thing he did is in the Turkish constitution, it says the role of the military is to throw a coup if the government starts to get too religious. So the founders of Turkey knew that eventually Islamists are going to try and take this thing over. If they do, it's the army's job to fight out the Islamists. Now, Erdogan starts to come to power decades ago, and he's a very clever man. So he doesn't go for a straight power grab right away, right? He gets into office, and he does, the first term is good governance, right? Deregulate some stuff, open up Turkish markets, push the Turkish economy, use the money to sort of develop underdeveloped areas. Go ahead. No real criticisms, right? Then he starts to build a bit of a base. And all of this, he's sort of rumbling, and he's always sort of on the more conservatively Islamist agenda, we could say, right? Spouting a bit more hardline Islamic radicalism. Now, Erdogan is the man who explicitly has said there is no such thing as moderate Muslims. There is no such thing as moderate Islam. It's Islam or it's not Islam. Now, I have some disagreements with Erdogan in this, but it's a very fascinating statement for someone who's so Muslim Brotherhood. So let's remember this. We have a military that's job is to keep the religious people out of power, right? And then you have Erdogan, who's sort of pandering to this hardline religious faction. Now, I don't like the sort of it's either Muslim or not Muslim. All Muslims are the same. This is one of the two sides of the mouth that the Muslim Brotherhood will talk out of. So there's one thing they will do. This is sort of the Erdogan thing, which is the honest. Like, it's Islam or it's not Islam. There's one way of determining Islam. This is the Islam, and you go for it, the hardline thing. Then there's what you say to the world, right? This is kind of what you say to the base. And what you say to the world is the sort of Jamal Khashoggi Muslim Brotherhood pitch, who was also in Turkey when he got chopped up. By the way, don't chop people up. It's a really bad political move. Now, but Khashoggi's thing is what Khashoggi would do is he would go to the West and say, hey, we have to be talking to the moderates, okay? So you have ISIS, which are the crazies. Then you have the moderates, which are just Muslims who aren't currently decapitating people. Then the Muslim Brotherhood portrays themselves as moderates. Even though the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia says Yusuf Qaradawi and the ideology behind the Muslim Brotherhood is radical, right? The Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia says the Muslim Brotherhood ideology is radical. But then the Muslim Brotherhood say, no, we're the moderates. Because, see, they're burning people alive, taking sex slaves, and decapitating people. We're not doing that right now. We might be advocating for a caliphate globally, but we're the moderate ones. And in fact, they're not the moderates. They're both the radicals. The moderates are the people who are more moderate than that. And this is where I think Erdogan is wrong. But this is sort of the propaganda put out by the Middle East, and this is what you have to understand about modern Turkey and the internal battle it's going through. So now you have the fact that, remember, the military's job is to throw a coup if the president gets too Islamist, like Erdogan was. However, what Erdogan was is very clever. Is he took a ban off of religious school graduates going into the military. Makes sense. If the goal of the military is to keep the country secular, you don't want a bunch of religious people going into the military, right? Then slowly but surely he started to replace high-ranking officers with, religious school graduates, people close to him. Then in the tipping point, he sort of gambled it all on pretty much throwing what looked like a fake coup, or instituting a coup himself among the people, flushing out the factions of the military that weren't loyal to him, then getting his supporters on the streets right away to make it sure that they wouldn't be able to get to him easily enough, then have his parts of the military fight it out and basically purge the disloyal unity and then declare emergency power needs because of a coup. Pretty good. Pretty Game of Thronesy. Like, this guy would get some screen time on Game of Thrones. He's pretty good. some, Tywin Lannister level thinking. I'm not, my criticisms of Erdogan will never be he's a stupid, incompetent man, right? He's a good political player. He outfoxed Trump in the Syria thing, right? He's a problem to be dealt with. Now, back to the Hagia Sophia. Okay, so this is why people like this is such a problem. This ideology will destroy the West. And the ideology is this, and this is the same thing. This is why I bring up Israel and India all the time, because when you just take the Hagia Sophia, when you just take churches, and it's worse converting churches to mosques than it is to convert synagogues to mosques, because mosques can be converted back to synagogues and synagogues to mosques pretty easily. But in churches, there's a lot of beautiful architecture and whatever, the Virgin Mary, you can see Jesus and the apostles, there's painting people. You can't have any of that in a mosque or in a synagogue. So there's no, you can't have a picture of Moses in a synagogue. So there'd be that. And you can't have a picture of anyone in a mosque. So when you convert great Christian churches and basically pillars of both cultural art and history, and convert them to mosques, you're desecrating them. It's a desecration. Now, will UNESCO stand up to this? Will the UN and UNESCO stand up to this? Will the UNESCO say, no, that's clearly a church. That says church on it. That's a church. Because this is not what UNESCO does. Remember the Temple Mount, the holiest place in all of Judaism? It's literally the home of Solomon's temple, the Temple Mount, right? The Temple Mount is currently a mosque. Got knocked down. No, it wasn't by the Muslims, right? Babylonians knocked the first one down. Romans knocked this next one down. The Muslims came and built a mosque on it. Now, I don't care. You build a mosque on it. But the audacity here to deny the connection between that land and the original Jewish temple is really the problematic part here. So UNESCO will say, you know what? Jerusalem is a Palestinian heritage site. The Temple Mount, Palestinian. The Jesus, Palestinian. Born in Judea, doesn't matter. Abraham, Isaac, the tombs of the founding fathers of Judaism, that's a Palestinian heritage site. Literally, that's what UNESCO will say. So they don't even care. Even if you go into the Dome of the Rock, even if you go into the Al-Aqsa Mosque, there's a plaque there in Arabic in the mosque saying that this is on top of the Jewish temple. The reason why there's a temple there is that's what Muhammad, in his dream, never went to Jerusalem in the physical world, but had a dream where he met all the past prophets at the temple. This is where Muhammad went in his dream, to a Jewish temple, to talk with Jesus and Abraham and all those guys. This is in the Quran. And then they come around and deny, this is not a Jewish temple. This is not a church. This is not a Hindu temple. This statue of Buddha, that's not Buddha, that's Muhammad, and it's blasphemy. So right? It's the lies, the obfuscation. So I want to let the Christian community know, hey, we got your back. That is whatever it is. And also, I'm going to give you some advice. You suck. Okay? Now, I say this out of love. I say this out of love to the Christian activist community. You suck, especially at Christian activism. I know this because I know the Hindu activists and I know the Jewish activists, and they suck too. Okay? Part of being in this tribe of people can just shit all over you. Basically, part of it is you have to realize your religious leaders are cowards, right? Where are the letters from all your priests and reverends and whatever lobbying the government to stand up to Turkey? Where are you guys lobbying the UN? No, the rabbis don't do this, okay? It's not like, oh, we're Jews, we're courageous. No. Trust me, you're in the same boat as us now. Now, the reason I'm coming to help you is because I like Christians, because Christians, like Jews and like Hindus, I've learned, they suck at activism for their own people. Like, Christians won't stand up for Christianity. Now, Christians do a great job of, when it's someone's like, we should kill all the Jews. No, we don't kill Jews. That is bad. The Bible says murder is bad, and we don't genocide people. Christians are really good at coming to the defense of Jews. But you suck at coming to the defense of Christians, and you have to understand that. So, let's work on a symbiotic relationship here. We'll try and help you, and you try and keep us alive still. And this is what we'll go on to. But please remember, the major organizations are failures. The religious leaders are cowards. Hey, but at least you got me? Nah.